As petals drifted in the April twilight, I was slowly climbing the hill to my parents' apartment slower than usual. The soft spring breeze gently caressed my hair, and the voices of children returning home from school in the distance heralded the arrival of a peaceful season. With both hands naturally placed on my stomach, I carefully stepped, one at a time, as if I were carrying something fragile, 5 months pregnant. The heartbeat of the tiny life was surely changing my world. Days filled with morning sickness and occasional fetal movements made me feel the reality of nurturing a new life. Yet, I hadn't shared this joy with anyone. At 27, I was making my mark as a systems engineer in a highly regarded IT company. Despite the constant deadlines, my work always received high praise, thankfully. I was also tasked with training new employees, earning substantial trust from my colleagues. Always pursuing new technologies, I amassed achievements in various fields beyond my day job, including freelance web writing, blogging, and video editing. On weekends, I devoured technical books and continued learning through online courses, gaining respect among my colleagues. This effort resulted in an income exceeding $10,000 a month, far surpassing Dad's salary, though my parents seemed unaware. Or rather, they hardly seemed to care about my existence at all. I worked desperately on holidays, and staying up late was not uncommon, yet my parents never called to check on me when I returned home. I met Kevin, my partner, 2 years ago during a major system development project. He was an excellent project manager in his early 30s, overseeing the entire team while maximizing each engineer's capabilities. He recognized my skills more than anyone else and actively implemented my ideas. Our relationship gradually moved from professional partners to being close in our personal lives as well. We spent weekends at cafes discussing system designs, sometimes watching movies, and sharing our dreams for the future. Kevin, knowing that I sent a significant amount of money to my parents, never criticized me but supported my choices. We had promised to marry, but the ceremony had not yet taken place. Kevin's sudden reassignment to Singapore had us valuing our careers while trying to build a long-distance relationship. "It's okay, I will definitely come back." That's what Kevin said as he left. At the airport, as we said goodbye, he gently placed his hand on my stomach, smiling at the still invisible bump. I had already told him about the pregnancy. It was late at night, just after he received the notice of his assignment to Singapore. "Actually, I'm pregnant," I told him in the office after finishing overtime. After a moment of silence, Kevin's smile swept away all my worries. "Congratulations, and thank you." He inadvertently spoke formally, and we both laughed. Surprised yet accepting the news with joy and a sense of responsibility, I was truly reassured by his reaction. "Should I turn down the Singapore offer?" Kevin suggested, but I shook my head. We should be in a relationship where we support each other's dreams. I want to show our baby that its parents have the courage to chase their dreams. With those words, Kevin deeply nodded. However, I hesitated to tell my parents. The reason was simple. At home, my sister Nicole was always the center of attention. My life choices were always secondary, or perhaps even less than that. From a young age, my parents' attitude was clear. If Nicole played the main role in a school festival, my parents would take the day off to attend. Meanwhile, even when I received awards for academic excellence, too busy to attend was all they said. In high school, when I was accepted to a prestigious school, my parents were more interested in Nicole's dance recital. Poor Nicole. "She's not good at studying like sister." Mom's words stung like a poisoned needle. Even after starting college, the situation didn't change. I earned scholarships and attended a top university school of information engineering. I acquired multiple certifications during my studies and secured a job at a leading company. Meanwhile, Nicole dropped out of a local community college. Yet my parents covered for her, saying, it wasn't right for Nicole, and instead often scolded me, saying, "Consider your sister's feelings." I silently walked my own path. Even if I had grievances, I kept them to myself and instead tried to provide for my family. While living at home, I contributed most of my income to the household and even took over Dad's mortgage payments. Yet, my parents' attention was always directed towards Nicole. When Nicole got married, my parents broke into their savings to help fund a lavish wedding. No one realized that my salary was compensating for it. Or perhaps, they chose not to notice. Now, as I climbed the hill, I suddenly thought, should I tell my parents about this pregnancy? How will they react to a pregnancy before marriage? Even if I explain that Kevin and I have promised to marry, will they understand? As I reached for the door, I already felt something was different. The sounds of Mom cooking, usually audible by now, and the TV were absent. Instead, a familiar voice reached my ears. "Welcome back, Sarah. You're just in time." It was undoubtedly Nicole's voice. However, it lacked her usual sweet tone and carried a cold ring instead. I instinctively knew from this moment that my life was about to change drastically. Nicole stood in the hallway, dressed in a flashy dress. A garish dress with prominent high-end brand logos, almost vulgar in its assertiveness. Why was my sister, who should be enjoying a happy newlywed life, here after being married for half a year? I doubted my eyes for a moment. "Nicole, what's happening? Where's Matt?" "Well, there's been a lot going on." Nicole was vague in her response. Since marrying Matt, Nicole had always returned home with him, claiming they wanted to give back to our parents by flaunting him as a walking wallet around their parents' neighborhood. It seemed odd now that only Nicole was at home. "I have something to tell you." Her voice carried a mean streak. I didn't miss the triumphant glint in my sister's eyes. "I've decided to move back home." Of course, Mom and Dad are thrilled. "Move back? Temporarily?" "No, for a while. And I've decided to use your room." My heart skipped a beat. My room. A space filled with memories from my childhood. College textbooks, programming manuals, precious items given by my grandparents. And above all, things like pregnancy tests and hospital receipts that I didn't want anyone to see right now. "Wait, my room." "What do you mean?" "You'll see if you look." There was a clear note of victory in Nicole's voice. I hurried to my room. When I opened the door, I was frozen by the scene before me. There was nothing left. The room was completely empty. Only the marks of thumbtacks on the walls told that something had once been displayed there. The closet was empty. Drawers were empty. Photo albums cherished since childhood, awards from my student days, precious items from my grandparents, and even the important documents and receipts from recent times, all were gone. I got rid of all the junk. Found a handy junk removal service, you see. Nicole's voice from behind was as sharp as a knife laced with poison. "Thrown away." My voice trembled. "Why would you? How could you?" "Well, it's in the way, isn't it? For me to live here." Nicole spoke as if it were the most natural thing. "Besides, aren't you about the right age to move out? Staying at your parents' house forever isn't normal." I was at a loss for words. I'm 27. It's perhaps a normal age to be married and out of the house. But I was the one who paid most of the mortgage and supported our parents' living. And Nicole placed her hand on her stomach. "There's something important I need to tell you. I'm pregnant. That's why I decided to come back home." At that moment, I instinctively understood. Nicole's theatrical gestures, her unnatural behavior, it was all a lie. Years of sisterly intuition told me of the falsehood in her words. But before I could point out the truth, the sound of the front door opening echoed. Mom appeared, carrying shopping bags. "I'm home." "Nicole, Mommy bought something nice for the baby." Joy overflowed in Mom's voice, a joy she never showed ordinarily. When she noticed me, her expression clouded for a moment. "Oh, Sarah's back too." That single sentence encapsulated 27 years of indifference. Mom continued to unpack the shopping bags. Tea for morning sickness, food for pregnant women, and expensive fruits. All were prepared for Nicole. "Mom," I began with a trembling voice. "About my belongings." "Oh, that." Mom answered without even looking up. "It's necessary because Nicole is coming back. Why don't you finally become independent?" At that moment, something inside me snapped. Years of accumulated patience suddenly exceeded their limits. "Mom, I have something to tell you too." But I was cut off mid-sentence. Nicole suddenly raised her voice loudly. "Mom, Sarah is trying to kick me out. She's treating my baby like a nuisance." Nicole's voice was theatrical, but Mom couldn't see through it, or perhaps she chose not to. "Sarah, you!" Anger twisted Mom's face. The moment I tried to explain, an unexpected violence struck. Mom's kick was aimed at my stomach. Pain shot through me. As I reflexively placed my hands to protect my stomach, a scream escaped me with my fear. "Mom, stop. I'm pregnant." The room's air froze. A silence as if time had stopped. But that silence did not last long. "Liar." Mom's scream echoed throughout the room. Her voice was filled with a hatred I had never heard before. Sarah, to go so far as to lie. Nicole spoke with a sense of superiority. To drive me out like this. I felt the world around me slowly distorting. Hostility now fully dwelt in Mom's eyes, and Nicole wore a triumphant smile. "Show me proof." Mom spat out. "If it's true, you'll have proof, won't you?" My hands trembled as I reached into my bag. It should have contained my maternity book and ultrasound photos. However, I remembered. Those documents were in the drawer of my desk. Now in that room, which had been emptied. "See, you can't produce them." Nicole sneered. Sarah was so dishonest. No, the documents were definitely there. In the room. Just excuses. Mom's kick came again. This time I was cornered against the wall, unable to dodge. I desperately tried to protect my stomach, but Mom's violence was relentless. "Get out," Mom screamed. "Never come back." At that moment, Dad came home. However, without trying to understand the cause of the chaos, he just stood by, holding Nicole's shoulder. "Dad." Even as I looked at him pleadingly, Dad looked away. "Sarah, if you leave, everything will be solved." Dad's voice was cold, blaming me for everything without understanding anything. "Don't trouble your sister anymore." My last hope faded. I staggered to my feet and headed for the entrance. No one chased after me. No one tried to stop me. As I opened the front door, I remembered that I had spent most of my life in this house, desperately studying to meet my parents' expectations, getting into a good university, and landing a job at a top company. I continued to contribute to the household without sparing my own savings, despite everything. When I went out into the night, tears finally overflowed for the first time. But I quickly composed myself. I had to think of the baby first. In the emergency room waiting area, I was shaking as I called Kevin. I should still be able to reach him. "Hello, Sarah." "What's happening? Calling at this hour?" Hearing his familiar voice, the emotions I had been holding back flooded out. "Kevin." My voice broke. Sobbing, my throat choked up, and I couldn't speak further. But no more words were needed. "I'm coming back now. I'll explain the situation to my boss." "Sarah, wait for me." After hanging up, I used the time before my consultation to start making necessary arrangements. First, I adjusted my work schedule starting the following day. Fortunately, I had already been granted permission to work from home. Next, I made a hotel reservation. And since I had managed to take only my bank book, it seemed I could secure living expenses for the time being. Sarah White. A nurse's call brought me back to reality. Entering the consultation room, A middle-aged female doctor welcomed me with kind eyes. "The baby is okay." Her words instantly relieved my tension. "However, you need to be even more careful from now on. Especially, try to avoid stress as much as possible." I nodded. I would never go back to that house again, to protect my baby and myself. When I left the hospital, it was already late at night. On my way to the hotel, I suddenly looked up at the sky. The night sky without a single star. But there must be light somewhere. I have to believe that and keep walking. The next day, Kevin returned home ahead of schedule. Upon hearing the situation, he immediately took action. He visited real estate agents and found a luxurious apartment. He even became the guarantor. "This place has good security. You can live here safely." For the first time, I felt a true sense of security. No one would disturb me anymore. I can decide my own life. Looking towards the direction of the home I once lived in, I renewed my determination. On the 25th floor of the luxury apartment, from the large windows, the city lights sparkled like studded jewels. Standing by the window, I touched my stomach and savored the beginning of a new life. 2 weeks after moving, little by little, new memories were accumulating in the room. A white-themed sofa that Kevin had chosen, the latest computer set up for online meetings, and a baby crib prepared for our upcoming child. "This is our new castle." I smiled as I spoke to the baby in my belly. 6 months pregnant. The ultrasound showed our child growing healthily. After arranging my living situation, Kevin returned abroad to wrap up his remaining work in Singapore. He promised to come back to me as soon as he finished. Work shifted to remote, and everything was going smoothly. In fact, being freed from commuting stress even increased my concentration. My side job as a blogger also received more responses than expected, and I had more requests for series. One day, an unexpected envelope arrived. The sender was Nancy, a childhood friend living near my parents' house. My hands trembled slightly as I opened the letter. "Sarah, you might be surprised by this sudden letter. But there's something you need to know. Nicole's pregnancy was a lie. I accidentally heard her laughing with a friend about how it went well. She just wanted to live at home to save money. But that plan didn't last long. I heard that Matt has decided to divorce her after learning of Nicole's lie. And the real reason she returned home. Her relationship with her parents has worsened, and now everyone seems to regret their days, especially your mom, who seems to be struggling with managing the household finances. She finally realized how significant the living expenses you provided were. Sarah, how is your baby? I'm on your side. Contact me anytime if you need anything." From Nancy. As I finished reading the letter, I was engulfed in complex emotions. My parents had taken for granted my income and remodeled the condominium where we lived. The remodeling was expensive, and naturally, they demanded that I increase my share of the payments. Certainly, there must still be repayments left. Since I lived at home, my parents thought it was natural for me to provide financial support. Perhaps because we had always done it this way, my parents hardly looked at the account statements where the mortgage and remodeling fees were withdrawn. I had been managing the payments regularly to ensure there were no defaults. Eventually, my parents completely lost the notion of paying for housing and utterly forgot about it. So I stopped the loan payments the moment I left home. I had zeroed out the registered account balance. I ruminated over the contents of the letter. It was neither anger nor hatred I felt, but rather everything seemed like a distant past. That night, the doorbell rang. "Sarah, open up." It was Nicole's image on the monitor, her makeup ruined and her eyes red as if she had been crying. She had somehow found out my address and came here. "Please, listen to me." I took a deep breath and slowly pressed the intercom button. "Nicole, it's all over." "It's not. I wanted to apologize. If you want to apologize, write a letter. But don't expect a reply." "But..." Also, don't come here anymore. I'll call security. I spoke evenly and then hung up the intercom. I straightened my back and looked out the window. The city lights were still shining beautifully as ever. Through Nancy, various situations surrounding Nicole gradually became clear. Her husband, Matt, had decided to divorce immediately upon learning of Nicole's lies. When all my belongings were thrown out, Nicole had returned home in a flashy dress. The background of that time, when she only said, "It's complicated," whenever I asked for reasons, became clear. Nicole was a housewife who hardly did any housework and lived extravagantly on Matt's high salary. When Matt complained about her excessive spending, Nicole, infuriated, went back to her parents' house. Moreover, she had taken with her the credit card Matt had entrusted to her. She left Matt feeling annoyed to make him miss her a test of her own making. The truth was exposed. She returned home to continue her lavish lifestyle on Matt's card while merely saving her own living expenses. Although our parents were furious, it was too late. The family finances rapidly deteriorated after I left. Dad's salary alone couldn't cover the mortgage payments. Mom's part-time income also disappeared into Nicole's luxurious demands, as Matt had stopped the card usage. The financial foundation I had silently supported then collapsed with a crash. Calls from Mom increased. But I did not respond. I blocked all contacts. I also set my social media accounts to private. "I won't let anyone disturb me again," I murmured, as if promising to the baby in my belly. One December morning, swept by the cold winter winds, I woke up to intense labor pains. The due date was still a week away. But it seemed the little life had its own schedule. "It's okay, we'll get through this together," I whispered to my baby in the taxi. Kevin had finished an important project in Singapore and was scheduled to return next week. "Mizu White, are you alone?" a nurse asked at the reception, and I nodded. But I was not alone. On the way to the delivery room, my smartphone vibrated. It was a video call from Kevin. "Sarah, I'm boarding the plane now. I've arranged the earliest flight. I should make it in time," he said. At those words, I couldn't hold back my tears. The labor pains grew stronger. With each peak of pain, I battled memories of the past. Mom's cold gaze, Nicole's lies, the severance from my family. But those memories were gradually fading away, overshadowed by the joy of welcoming a new life. "We'll meet soon," I smiled during the brief respite between contractions. And at 2:18 p.m. on December 24th, a tiny cry echoed through the delivery room. "Congratulations, it's a healthy girl." The doctor's voice sounded from afar. My vision blurred with tears. Then, at that moment, the door to the delivery room burst open. I made it. Kevin gasped for breath. I thought to myself, I will never forget this moment. Hope. In that name was encapsulated the hope for a new life. The baby was showing a face as peaceful as an angel in her sleep. She really is a beautiful child. Kevin smiled happily while holding his daughter. Not only had he made it in time for the birth, but he had also secured a new job in the US. He had wrapped up his work in Singapore perfectly and moved to be with me and our daughter, ensuring we could be together as a family. By next spring, the three of us will be starting a new life together. The room in our luxurious apartment gradually transformed into a family space. Above the baby crib, a toy chosen by Kevin gently swayed. On the wall, a height chart to record Hope's growth. And in the living room, a photo of our smiling family was displayed. I continued to ignore calls from my family back home. Apology letters from Nicole and my parents remained unopened in my desk drawer. Someday, when the time comes, I might read them. For now, I want to devote everything to the new life with the little one in front of me. On the spring day of Hope's first birthday, I wrote her a small letter. To my beloved Hope, your birth has greatly changed my world. There may be difficulties ahead, but live true to your heart. Above all, your life is your own. You do not need to live for someone else. Someday, when you read this letter. I'm sure I will have become an even stronger and kinder mother. With all my love from Mom. Through Nancy, I also heard that my parents were struggling financially. The pains of the past now served to strengthen me. My job was more fulfilling than ever. I had gained the trust of my boss and had been promoted to project leader. Although I was full of uncertainties at first, now it was different. No matter what challenges may come, I am sure we can overcome them with this little life. To this child, I wish to give unconditional love and the courage to choose her own life. As a mother and as a woman, my new life is just beginning. Outside the window, the spring breeze lifted the petals, heralding the arrival of a new season.